This video is going to be a lot more on the serious side, and it's also not really scripted, so forgive me if it seems that I stray away from a few points. I have no script. I just have a few screenshots and things that I'm going to look at, because I have gotten the question, especially from some of the newer subs that are happy to see more Kengan YouTubers, and some that ask why Kengan isn't covered as much. Because the Kengan Ashura Kengan Omega story, it's a very good series, and it's very popular as well. I genuinely think it's an incredibly popular series. But it seems as though on the YouTube side, there seems to be, one, a lack of creators, but two, a lack of creativity. What you will notice, and I think it's by design, honestly, most Kengan YouTubers don't show the Kengan Omega, panels as much. Like, if you think of like JJK YouTubers, which most of the subs, they also read JJK and watch JJK YouTubers, it's like night and day, right? You go to watch a JJK video, JJK content creator, they put the panels there, they have their explanations, they have all this stuff. But then you go to a Kengan YouTuber and there just isn't that, essentially. And you ask yourself that question, like, why is that? Maybe some of you haven't noticed at all, but I have, because I'm a Kengan YouTuber and I know the reason why. Now, the reason why I'm making a video for this is because there are actually two reasons, or three specifically, although the third one plays less of a role. The first one is an upcoming YouTuber called Edward Takeshi, who's new and upcoming, basically, who got a pretty big video when he talked about, comparing Kengan Omega and Kengan Ashura, and talking about why Kengan Omega was a disappointment. I don't necessarily agree, but it was doing amazingly good, and it was a pretty well put together video, all things considered, right? That video got copyright striked. Then, reason number two, the biggest Kengan YouTuber around, Mysterious Weeb, recently hit 100k, right? Big W's to him. But then in that announcement of announcing that he reached 200k, there was something else he said, that he also got a copyright strike for his review of the recent chapter with Lohan and the Second Connector, and that it got taken down like 8 hours since he put it up. It got taken down instantly, essentially. Now, the third reason is that my channel also, I've been completely removed at one point. Most people who've been subscribed to me for a while will know I disappeared for like 3 months. And it's for the same reason, and that is basically one word: Shogakukan. Shogakukan, I think, is the publisher of the Kengan Ashura and Kengan Omega series. Not too sure, right? But they seem, if you go to, I think, Komiki, and you go to the Kengan Omega side, or the website where you can read Kengan Omega, they are written there as the publisher, I think. And they are single-handedly responsible for all of this. And I think it's important to talk about them. It's important that I think most people, if you care about this topic at all, I think it's important you share this video around, just so people see, just so people know what's happening, and how this is ultimately stifling the growth of this series. Because I think the Kengan series would be a lot more popular if it wasn't for this company, and basically how trigger happy they are with dealing copyright strikes. But I want to talk about, actually, let me start off with why they do this at all. Now, the company is from Japan. In Japan, there are basically no fair use laws, basically. Most people know this from the Totally Not Marked situation, and probably many other, anime and manga YouTubers. We basically face this problem a lot, actually. But with Kengan, it's particularly bad, in my opinion. However, because they don't have fair use laws, they seem to copyright strike a lot of, other people's content, and in some cases, although most companies show a lot more restraint than Shogakukan, right? They show a lot more restraint, but this is the case. Typically, when it comes to the law and how this actually is supposed to unfold, it's a question of whether or not a Japanese company can hold citizens of other countries to its own law, right? Like, should you, living in the USA, living wherever you are, be subjected to Japanese's copyright or fair use laws, especially when you have your own fair use laws in your own country? That's typically where this discussion goes to, in my opinion. But I don't think that matters. And here's what I'm going to say why. And it's based off of my experience. So I want to talk about how I ended up losing my channel, because I think it gives very valuable insight to Shogakukan and why I think they are abusing the copyright system. First off, when I was doing my analysis content, because that's predominantly what gets the copyright strikes, typically, I've never received a copyright strike for my review. Never. So in my analysis and theory content, I typically have panels, as a slideshow, showing certain things. Sometimes I try to prove a point by showing the panels, be like, okay, here's what's happening here. And in the past, I used to do that and I got a copyright strike. This is the first time I got it. I forgot which video it was for. Maybe it was for the Kuroki's Darkest Secret video, or why Koga should learn the Nico style, or should he learn the Nico style. It was maybe one of those two. The first time I got a copyright strike, I was a bit flabbergasted, but I was like, maybe it's because I'm showing the panels, whatever. What I'm gonna do next time, and this is my biggest mistake, I thought to myself, I'll be more careful next time. I'll add filters. I'll do everything under the sun, basically. And if you've seen most of my analysis content, most of my older analysis content where I don't have like the anime playing in the background, the Kengan Ashura anime playing in the background, you'll see filters, like a lot of filters in some cases. And I'm just trying to avoid the copyright strike. I did a community post about it where I was like, let's see what I can do here. And I just put filters. But then I got no copyright strikes for a pretty long time. And I thought it was working. I thought, okay, I found a formula where Shogakukan won't copyright strike me. And then overnight, because multiple weeks passed and multiple theories and analysis videos were released, one day I wake up, my channel is gone. I got 2 copyright strikes overnight and my channel got removed. I think that was the wake up call for me, because it's pretty devastating. For most YouTubers, they know how devastating this is, but I'm a pretty small YouTuber, all things considered, right? So it was pretty devastating, but my livelihood wasn't really that much affected because I had a lot of other things happening in the background. So I could at least cope with it. But at that point, I decided, no, my analysis content, it falls under fair use. I live in a country where there is fair use. And so I launched a counterclaim via email, because I had no channel. I couldn't do it via YouTube Studio anymore. I had to send YouTube an email. I tweeted at the YouTube on Twitter to ask for this issue to be, to at least have more eyes on this issue. And typically when you launch a counter notification, and this is the biggest telltale sign, the company has 14 days to respond. Shogakukan waited the 14 days. And then my channel was back. That's why I'm back. This experience taught me something very valuable about Shogakukan. And that is that Shogakukan more than likely knows what they're doing. They probably know that they can't just apply their non-fair use laws on a citizen who lives in a country where there are fair use laws. They can't do that. But the YouTube system allows them to do that. And so what I think is happening here is Shogakukan is deliberately, even though they have a small justification, they are abusing the copyright system. Because I don't think it matters what you do, technically. They could take you down for showing a single panel, maybe even a few others, right? They can do that if they want. There is no filters, nothing you can do about it. So the worst thing you can actually do in that situation is leave the copyright strikes hanging. That's the worst thing you could do, because I think you have to dispute it just so you get the copyright strike removed. But this creates a very big problem, because typically videos do well within like the first week or so, and when a video gets a copyright strike, its momentum gets stifled like by a lot. And so it ends up making less views overall, and it just becomes an entirely big headache. You can kind of see why most people are trying to avoid it, or at least at some point end up avoiding the Kengan, Ashura, and Omega manga. Because even if you're in the right, you will have to constantly, unless you can find a format that works, which is what I'm trying to do, you'll constantly have to, when you get a copyright strike, do a counter notification. And if it comes back, it loses momentum. It's like, it's a losing game, basically. And it basically just becomes a war of attrition with Shogakukan. And it's just not worth it sometimes. It's just not worth the headache. There are other series out there that don't give you this hassle. And that's really the problem. It's kind of like the situation with solo leveling and how solo leveling got just so much more popular on the YouTube space, and then because of copyright strikes, because it just became so much more dangerous to cover solo leveling, that basically it faded in the YouTube space. Just completely faded out. We have a similar situation here with Kengan Omega, and I don't know what can be done about this situation, if anything at all. But my only thing, the reason why I'm making this video is just so everyone else is aware of what's happening. Because a lot of people just don't seem informed on the matter at all. And I think if you're an aspiring YouTuber who wants to cover Kengan content, you also need to know this. Because it's a huge risk throwing your hat in the ring. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. So yeah, next time you see any Kengan YouTuber around, you can be thankful. But you also need to be aware that these are the risks of doing this. And that sometimes these people will just disappear after a while. But yeah, that's it. Take it easy.